Hello, my name is Neelam Chowdhary, and I am the Executive Director of Global Learning Programs for the Center for Global Education at Asia Society, and welcome to Teaching for Global Competence, utilizing the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I am pleased to join you to discuss one of the most important issues in education today. How do we ensure that all young people receive a quality education that prepares them to succeed and thrive in a rapidly changing world? Our agenda today will include 4 components: an introduction to global competence, an introduction to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, assessment ideas, and resources. First, let's get started by taking a look at a brief video about global competence.
There are 4 key elements of global competence. Global competence starts by being aware, curious, and interested in learning about the world and how it works. Students are able to ask globally significant questions, analyze evidence from multiple sources, and develop an argument that draws defensible conclusions. Students recognize that they have a perspective and someone else may or may not share it. They weigh all sides and from that incorporate different perspectives into their point of view. Globally competent students effectively communicate their ideas with diverse audiences, including through the use of appropriate technology. While English is the primary language of business, speaking another language is important for collaborating across borders. By applying what they have learned, students can translate their ideas into appropriate actions to discover solutions for both local and global challenges. We now face a critical imperative: to prepare all students for work and civic roles in an environment where success increasingly requires the ability to compete, connect, and cooperate on an international scale.
In all countries, global economic, digital, cultural, demographic, and environmental forces are shaping young people's lives and their futures. It is clear that the world's children are growing up in a world that is completely different from what it was 30 years ago. It is undeniable that the world has changed, but education needs to change too. There is now widespread awareness that we need different approaches to curriculum that emphasize critical subject areas such as STEM. However, we also need to emphasize essential skills in all subject areas, including critical thinking, creativity, and interpersonal skills of communication and collaboration. Furthermore, these skills will need to be applied in a global context. Young people will need to think critically about information they receive online and through social media. They will need creativity to help solve some of the world's seemingly difficult problems, and they will need to communicate and collaborate with diverse peers in the communities and workplace. Recently, in a remarkable moment of global consensus, the member states of both the United Nations, through its adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, and the OECD through its PISA exam in 2018, prioritized education for global citizenship and global competence. There are 5 reasons why global competence matters. The first is that global competence is the toolkit, or is the toolkit a productive, involved citizenry uses to meet the problems and opportunities of the world. In this curriculum, global competence challenges students to investigate the world, consider a variety of perspectives, communicate ideas, and take meaningful action. A globally focused curriculum engages students in their own learning and motivates them to strive for knowledge and understanding. And a curious, inspired student strives to learn more and do more. Number 2, a new generation of students requires different skills from the generations that came before. The world is changing fast. Boundaries, literal and figurative, are shifting and even disappearing altogether. The culture that once lived halfway around the world is right next door. The ability to thrive in this new and rapidly changing environment is grounded in a globally focused curriculum. Number 3, more than ever before, individual actions reach around the globe. Environmental concerns, economic shifts, global poverty, population growth, human rights, and political conflict can seem very difficult and overwhelming, yet they absolutely require thoughtful action. In a global focused curriculum, students learn that the world needs them to act and that they can make a difference. Number 4, Global competence integrates knowledge of the world and the skill of application with the disposition to think and behave productively. Global competence is not restricted to knowing about other cultures and other perspectives. In addition to knowledge of the world, a global competent citizen exhibits habits like critical thinking, rational optimism, innovation, empathy, and awareness of the influences of culture on individual behavior and world events. And number 5, success in career and life will depend on global competence because career and life will play out in the global stage. Already, government, businesses, and cultural institutions are called to solve the world's problems cooperatively. Engaging in these challenges requires high-order thinking and thinking skills, as well as shared language and cultural understanding. In a globally focused curriculum, students prepare to approach problems from multiple perspectives and to thrive in a global future. At the Education World Forum in 2018, Asia Society and OECD launched a new publication called Teaching for Global Competence in a Rapidly Changing World. In its development of the PISA Global Competence Framework, OECD conducted a comprehensive review of research and literature related to global competence, including our definition of global competence in primary and secondary education. This was developed in collaboration with the Harvard School of Education. The new publication sets forward the PISA framework for global competence developed by OECD, which aligns closely with the definition developed by the Center for Global Education. Based on our extensive experience supporting educators and integrating global competence into their teaching, the publication allows and provides practical guidance and examples of how educators can embed global competence into their existing curriculum. This is done through asking educators to think about the challenge now. The challenge is to improve and provide access to professional development for all teachers, to transform their teaching, their classrooms, their schools, and ultimately each and every one of their students. Both OECD and the Center for Global Education have identified 4 key aspects of global competence, shown on the slide here. Globally competent youth investigate the world beyond their immediate environment by examining issues of global, local, and cultural significance. They recognize, understand, and appreciate the perspectives and worldviews of others. They communicate ideas with diverse audiences by engaging in open, appropriate, and effective interactions across cultures, and take action for collective well-being and sustainable development, both locally and globally. Teaching for global competence will not be successful if it is consigned to extracurricular work. It must be part of the core curriculum. This can be achieved through a new approach to active learning that integrates academic concepts and global issues. Science, mathematics, literacy, history, the arts, each of these can be taught in global context and provide pathways to development of global competence. With the initial investments of the Gates Foundation, Carnegie Corporation, and in partnership with Harvard and Stanford University, among others, we have developed the preeminent teacher training program on educating for global competence. Since 2005, over 120,000 students in diverse schools and communities have benefited from this program. We have seen impressive results in our partner schools who are implementing global competence, including increased use of international best practices, improved student achievement and engagement, and improved test scores. Compared to national averages, our partner schools have 13% higher graduation rates and outperform their peers on state assessments 2/3 of the time. And this has been accomplished in schools with higher numbers of students from low-income and minority backgrounds than national averages. Now, I'd like to take a little time to talk about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So first we can get started here. So as many of you may have seen this chart before, this is a list, or a visual list of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 in all. And as mentioned earlier, they're a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. They address the global challenges we face, including those related to poverty, inequity, climate change, and the environment. And the 17 goals are interconnected And in order to leave no one behind, it is important that we achieve them all by 2030. When designing learning experiences, it is also important to have a roadmap to capture your goals and organize your plan. So when thinking about teaching for the UN Sustainable Development Goals, with the background with the foundation of global competence, you may also want to consider a framework, which we call at the Center for Global Education, SAGE. And this is a framework that has 4 main components. We ask that educators look through a filter of these 4 components. So you want to look through to see, does it include student choice? Does your unit or plan include authentic experience, things that students would do in the real world? Does it include global significance? And finally, is there opportunity to show their work and display their work and present to a real audience? This SAGE framework can help you assess your own unit design or performance assessment design as you are planning. This kind of environment also teaches students to be proactive about learning, which in itself is a critical global competency with connections to all 4 of the domains that we spoke of earlier. Global competence is multifaceted and includes cognitive, developmental, social, emotional, and civic learning. As we mentioned earlier, it has 4 main overlapping dimensions. Skills in these dimensions are also needed to examine examine and work toward the resolution of issues with local and global significance. And as a reminder, globally competent students investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicate ideas, and take action. Opportunities for global learning are all around us. Even when students are learning from home, you can, if you're still teaching remote, there are opportunities for you to help students to think about the world while they're just in their homes. The Sustainable Development Goals range from a variety of different issues, as we touched on earlier, which are all in need of solutions that the private sector can deliver, representing a large and growing market for business innovation. Global learning provides a perfect framework for students to explore these goals and build the necessary skills to process and evaluate information, to make informed judgments, and to become lifelong learners in order to keep up with the accelerating pace of information flow and technological change. Here are some resources that we put together that address both the global competence, both global competence and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I'll share some with you now. What you're seeing here is our website, the Center for Global Education website, and we have a section here called Global Learning. And again, the website here is www.asiasociety.org/education. And here you will be able to see a variety of different, a lot of different content we have. We have information about our professional development, a lot of our education resources. We have resources for Chinese language students and teachers. We have resources, plenty of resources for career and technical education. You can learn a little bit more about our ideas. We have a lot of resources for students who are still working from home or teachers who are still working from home. And we have a whole section called Education for Equity, which I will share in a few moments. But our global learning section is really about supporting teachers to design projects, which it says right here, projects designed to address the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And on this page, you'll find a brief description of global competence. Again, this chart on the Sustainable Development Goals, which we just reviewed. Some information on how to best or make the best out of virtual learning opportunities. Our SAGE framework, which we discussed just a few moments ago, and a variety of different projects. So here, and I'll take you through one of them, but I'll just show you the list here. We have Decoding Information Bias, Exploring a Free and Fair Press, Debate Podcasts, Perspectives on the Coronavirus, Infographic Design, Challenges of Xenophobia, Digital Stories, Poverty and Hunger, Oral History Projects, Understanding the Migrant and Refugee Experience, Digital Resource Curation, Investigating Oceans of Plastic, and finally, a list of project ideas organized by UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I will go through as well. So as an example, we can take a look at the infographic design. And here you will see a description of what an infographic is. Excuse me. Excuse me. You'll see a description of what an infographic is, how you can make this project authentic, and just a few tips on the SEL skills and what xenophobia is and how you can really focus students on thinking about what it is and how to combat it. If you click here, you will see a one-pager on how the project can be organized by by the SAGE framework. And this here is a 1-week activity, and it goes through what student choice components are, authentic experiences, why it is globally significant, and how you can help students exhibit this to a real audience. We also provide a few resources. So this is just a brief, kind of a jumping off point on how you can get your, start designing projects around the UN Sustainable Goals. I will go back down here, and because we are Asia Society, we have plenty of resources as well to support some of the topics around xenophobia. So here we have some previous recordings of programs that we've had, book readings, webcasts, and articles all related to this topic of xenophobia, particularly maybe of particular interest for those of you that would like to teach more about Asian and the Asian American experience. So this is just one example of the type of project you could consider doing that kind of meets global competence and the UN Sustainable Goal, matches those together. The other thing that I'd like to share with you is the projects organized by the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In here, if we've listed all of the goals, 1 through 17. Click on gender equality, for example. And here you will see project ideas that are aligned to the goal and how global competence can help you teach these goals. These are all on our website, freely available, easily downloadable. And of course you can adjust and modify however you would like, based on whatever it is that you're teaching in your classroom. So I wanted to share those resources with you, hoping that they would spark some interest and potentially, give you some ideas on how to get started. Because the goal is to get started. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the best, 6-week, performance assessment. But the idea is to get started and to get kids thinking about some of this stuff. Okay, let's go back here to the presentation. We also have a variety of different assessment resources, and one is around the global leadership performance outcomes. We often get a lot of questions about assessment and how to do it and what benchmarks, how do you know if a student is globally competent? That's a very common question that we get. So I wanted to speak a little bit about that and to share some resources that we have around performance assessments and performance outcomes. So in Educating for Global Competence, which is a book that was written by Veronica Boix-Mancia and our vice president at the center, Anthony Jackson, Dr. Anthony Jackson, they define global competence as the capacity and disposition to understand and act on issues of global significance. You probably saw this earlier in the presentation. In this context, the word global refers not just to different places on the planet, but to the great variety of interconnected people, cultures, ideas, problems, and opportunities that constitute all of the human experience. The globally competent student learns how to synthesize information and ideas from many sources and perspectives, and makes well-informed decisions to act on what is learned. It is this constellation of knowledge, disposition, and action that characterizes global leadership. Global leadership gives students many opportunities to transcend their local boundaries by developing global competence across disciplines of art, English language arts, history, social studies, mathematics, science, and world languages. A well-rounded global curriculum not only opens students' eyes, but sets the stage for them to act in ways that are inspired by their course of study and driven by a desire to make a difference locally, regionally, and globally. The skills required for successful participation in the world, such as responsible citizenship, innovation, entrepreneurship, and active leadership, among others, are not specific to any one course or classroom. A globally focused school fosters the development of these skills through service learning, internships, field trips, performances, and exhibits, and other experiential projects, both during the school day and via after-school and summer programs. In the course of developing global competence, students investigate the world, learn more about where people come from and how they live, and come back to reflect on their own lives with honesty. They recognize different perspectives, communicating and defending ideas with respect and empathy, and accounting for the thoughts and opinions of others are the roots of effective leadership and collaboration. And the seeds of action, identifying a local, regional, or global issue, researching questions about its causes and possible solutions, and taking responsibility for personal action in response may be sown in a class or in an after-school program. But in a globally focused curriculum, those seeds germinate everywhere in school, at home, and in community life. Students need to know they can have an impact and that they are not powerless in the face of large, complex, and often seemingly difficult global issues they study. Grounding a decision to act in global leadership allows them to demonstrate that their knowledge of the world is important and that it teaches them how to be part of a global community. So let's take a look at some of these resources. All right, so here we have the Global Leadership Package, and pretty much it is a set of benchmarks that supports the teacher in kind of seeing where a student should be at a certain grade level or age. So if we take a look at, let's take a look at the 8th grade performance outcomes set. So the performance outcomes, 8th grade, around ages 12 to 14. Middle school, ages 8 to 14. So this is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So it has a description of global leadership, just the rationale, and these are the performance outcomes. And here you'll see that they are separated by the 4 domains. So we'll ask a question, for example, under investigate the world, what is the evidence that a student can initiate investigation of the world by framing questions, analyzing, synthesizing relevant evidence, and drawing reasonable conclusions about global issues. And it gives you the 4 benchmarks, so the 4 outcomes that you should be looking for under investigate the world in this grade level. We have it for investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicate ideas, and take action. So these performance outcomes are then supported by what we call the I can statements. And many of you already know that I can statements are a way to help students internalize or understand a standard in a language that is suitable for their age or their developmental level. And so here you see the performance outcome here and the I can statements, which kind of break down the performance outcome a bit so that it's easier for the student to understand and internalize. So each also comes with a set of the I can statements in the 4 domains, and then the global leadership rubric. So this rubric really is something that our teachers value. It is a way in which they can really think about each performance outcome and the particular benchmarks the student should be hitting at their particular developmental stage. And so we have them divided into the emerging, developing, proficient, advanced. It's kind of a pathway or a progression. And it really kind of informs the teacher as they are designing their units. So we have the global leadership, the rubrics, again, each of the 4 domains. So if we go back here to the website, you will see that we have this in each of the age bands. So, primary grades would be K, 1st and 2nd, over here. 3rd grade would be around 3rd and 4th grade. 5th grade would be about 5th and 6th grade. Grade 8 would be around 7th and 8th grade. Grade 10 would be 9th and 10th, and grade 12 would be 11 and 12. So you may want to think about your students, where they are developmentally, and kind of decide on which set would work best for you. If you'd like to download all of them, you can go ahead and download the complete set, and these are free and available on our website. We also have outcomes and rubrics in a variety of different subject areas. So what global competence looks like in world languages, mathematics, sciences, arts, history and social studies, and English language arts. So be sure to take a look at those as well. So this is the way in which we kind of support our teachers in assessment, is we ask them to really look through the outcomes, the rubrics, and think about what your goals are. What do you want to achieve in a particular subject, or what you want to achieve when designing a project around a UN Sustainable Development Goal. So you could go back to some of the projects that I showed you earlier, align them with some of these outcomes, and come up with a project that you know is going to address much of what is needed in a global competence or a globally competent curriculum. Okay, so I'm going to take you back here. Okay. So another initiative that we've started is called Education for Equity. And this started basically around the time the pandemic started, and with a lot that was going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, we decided to kind of take a stand on equity in education, and it's something that we've worked on for many years. Not explicitly, a lot of our work around global competence is embedded in this idea of equity and this idea of getting students to think about different perspectives, and even educators to think about different perspectives, to investigate, to take actions on issues of global significance. And so what we decided to do is be a little bit more explicit about our take on equity in education. And I'm going to share some of those resources with you here. So again, on our website, freely available. So the first I wanted to share with you is something which we're calling Teaching Truth to Power. And this is a webcast or discussion series, brought to you by the Center for Global Education. And in past events we've had, I'll just share some with you, Raising Global Citizens, a panel for parents, caregivers, and educators, addressing race, racism, and social justice in world language classrooms, Identity Journeys, the South Asian American Student Experience. We have had the former director of the Toronto Public Schools, John Malloy, join us to talk a little bit about structural racism within the education system. And we've had Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum, who talks a lot about a positive race identity and what educators can do to support their students. So we had quite a few talks over the past 6 to 8 months. This past weekend, we had something called The Colors of Krishna's Love. And this was the presentation of an event, a Holi event, which is a spring festival in India. And we had it followed by a panel discussion with students talking about this idea of colorism, which is the prejudice or discrimination of people of a darker color within a certain race. And it is a very big problem, obviously, in many races, particularly in South Asia and Asia. And so we hosted a panel on that. And coming soon, we're going to have, sometime this spring, we will have one, bringing together some of our students within our network to talk about the impact that they have faced around social injustice, so from their perspective. And then we would like to have one with school leaders as agents of change to see what they have done to combat some of these issues. So this is one of our new initiatives called Teaching Truth to Power. There are quite a few, but then other one I will share with you is the Own Voices virtual reading room. And this is for those of you who are teaching about middle school and younger. We have readings, and the point of Own Voices is to feature authors of contemporary children's fiction books about the Asian and Asian American experience. So we'll feature the author, we'll feature the actual story, and the idea is to really support our Asian American community and to highlight some of the richness and the richness of the culture that can be found in these children's books. So this weekend, We have one on the seed of compassion, which was written by the Dalai Lama. We have one by a Korean author actually, The Name Jar, next month, and then an Indian American or Sikh American author, Hair Twins. And so we had an event a couple of months ago as well. And we also have share a book list here. It's Asia Society Kids book list, aging in range 0 to 18. You can see here babies and toddlers all the way to high school, and it's just stories and books that focus on the Asian and Asian American experience. So this is another really great resource. Those of you that are looking for resources like this, I thought I'd share. I'm trying to think if there's anything. We have a small section on raising global citizens. This is for parents and caregivers. Educators can benefit as well, but ways in which you can think about education or educating your kids in this globally diverse world. Okay, I'll go back to the presentation here. And another resource I wanted to share with you is our online courses. So through a partnership with Arizona State University, we have developed 10 online courses. And this is quite exciting for us because we generally work directly with school systems and school leaders, and this offers an opportunity for us to work directly with educators who are interested in taking a course or two to learn a little bit more about global competence or how to integrate it into their classrooms. So these courses are designed to be affordable and accessible and practical. They are offered in an easily digestible, self-paced 1-hour format, which allows educators to access them on demand. And so the courses provide tools that can be applied in any learning environment, including activities and best practices for school leaders and classrooms, and also in out of school time. One of the key features of the courses is that they're very accessible. So here you see the 10 main topics, which I feel that if you're watching this presentation, these are topics that you would really interest you. And they're accessible to a broad international audience as well. There are many visuals. There are a lot of tips and downloadable tools. So, they're very easy to access and use. Here you have anything simple from introduction to global competence all the way down to something around STEAM, how to integrate STEAM into the global, make that global connection. And that's actually really probably a really good course to take if you are interested in teaching to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, I think the STEAM course. And for those of you that are interested in learning how to design performance assessments, we have a lot of tools around there. We go really deep into the 4 domains of global competence, if that's something that you're interested in, or you just want a ton of instructional strategies around global competence, we have that course there. And then for those of you that are school leaders or in leadership roles, we do have a course for you as well. So these are all available from Arizona State University. Again, you can get more information about these at our website, the Center for Global Education's website at www.asiasociety.org/education. So here are just some examples of the type of downloadable materials you can have. Here you have 8 student needs to become successful strategic learners, common traits of globally competent students. Some teachers make these into posters, but these are just kind of the types of materials that you will see in the courses. We also have some, high quality video that kind of, shows an example of what an activity could look like. So I can put you here real quickly.
So, this year, one of my main goals is really to help students become strategic learners. So I've been looking at a lot of different ideas and strategies, and I'm really just not sure what to use. So what have you used to help your students stay engaged and interested in your lessons?
Well, right now I'm helping my students recognize different perspectives. One of the best strategies I've used for this is called corners. So I'll present the class with a globally significant issue and I'll ask a question. Then I give the students time to think about the question independently. Now, in all 4 corners of the room, I've posted an opinion or a response that's related to the question. Then The learners will move to the corner that most closely matches their opinion. And then while they're in that corner, they'll discuss why they chose that corner.
And how long do students discuss within their group?
Oh, not very long, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Then they'll pick a spokesperson to summarize the discussion. Now, you can have them do this orally or even in a written statement. And then give them about 1 to 2 minutes to share their group's discussion with the whole class.
Yeah, that is such a great idea. And one of the things that I think I could do is it really encourage my students to work within a group whose ideas or perspectives are different from their own. That way they're being exposed to multiple perspectives and starting to recognize these different alternative ideas. And then afterwards, they could always switch a group, and that could just reinforce them having that ability to recognize a different perspective.
Absolutely. My students are really engaged during this activity.
Yeah, I've used corners before too with my younger students, and it really does promote strategic thinking and listening. Right now, I'm working on helping students communicate ideas, and I use a strategy called Think, Pair, Share. This works in all types of lessons and with all age levels. You can use it in reading, math, and science. The possibilities are endless.
See, now that's great because I really want some strategies that I can use within any context or content.
Yeah, so to start, I'll first determine a series of questions that relates to the content that I'm teaching. As I'm teaching the lesson, I will pause and ask the students one of the questions. Just like in corners, learners think about their answer to the question individually at first. Then I usually have them turn to their partner beside them, or even maybe get up and share within a group of 3. Students then share their thinking with their learner or within their small group.
I've used this before, and I try to encourage the students to choose a different partner each time to see multiple perspectives. It also helps them to build their communication skills.
Exactly. If I have the time, I'll have the partners or group share out with another group or small partnership. The strategy combines many learning processes and maximizes listening, thinking, and communicating.
See, that sounds great. I'm going to definitely give these a try. Thank you.
And don't forget to model with your learners first so that when you give it a try with your whole class, you're a big success.
Right. I'll let you know how it goes. Thank you.
Great.
That's just a clip on, the type of videos that we have on the website, giving you tools and tips on different strategies and things that you can incorporate into your classroom. And so we're also very excited to provide an online community of practice to enhance the learning from these courses. People, as we all know, learn best when they're given the opportunity to direct their own learning and collaborate with peers. And so these online courses combine self-paced learning with collaboration through free membership in the Teaching for Global Competence community of practice. The community helps educators to connect with one another from around the world who are working to integrate a global focus into their learning environment. The community facilitator is available to answer questions about the courses, about any of the materials or content or resources, and they can participate anytime. So this is another great resource that we encourage you to take a look at it on our website. So I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for watching this video. And if you have any further questions, you know where to contact us. Again, our website is there. My email is here at chowdhary@asiasociety.org. You can follow us on Twitter. But I hope you got something out of how to incorporate global competence when you are teaching for the UN Development Sustainable Goals. And we hope to hear from you. Thank you. Have a great day.